This way, if we go live, we at least can have our discussions and be public, but we can't take a vote.
Okay.
All right, you're all set to go.
You're on mute, Greg.
Still. You're still muted, Greg.
Did we go live? Did Kaylee say we're live yet?
Yep, you're all set to go.
Oh, okay. All right. Very good. Very good. Welcome. This is the May meeting of the Northborough Conservation Commission. My name is Greg Young. I'm the chair of the commission. And pursuant to Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2025, an act extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency and signed into law on March 28th, 2025, this meeting will be conducted by remote participation. All members of the Northborough Conservation Commission are allowed and encouraged to participate remotely. The order allows the Northborough Conservation Commission to meet entirely remotely so long as reasonable public access is afforded so the public can follow along with the deliberations of the meeting. The public is encouraged to follow along using the posted agenda unless the chair notes otherwise. Members of the public who wish to view the live stream of this meeting may do so by going to Northborough Remote Meetings on YouTube via the link listed on the agenda. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. This meeting will feature public comment. Members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. John Johnson.
Present.
Sadie Stone.
Present.
I think that's it right now. Staff, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Vincent Vignali.
Yes.
Kaylee Olson.
Here.
Very good. Some meeting business ground rules. For presenters and or applicants listed on the agenda, the chair will invite each speaker or applicant on the agenda by name to make a presentation and speak to their application. Participants will provide their full name and hold until their name is called. Each speaker will be asked to mute their phone or computer when not speaking and to speak clearly and in a way that helps generate accurate meeting minutes. Those responding will be asked to wait until the floor is yielded to them by the chair. Speakers who wish to respond to the comments of others do so through the chair, taking care to identify themselves. Each vote taken by the commission will be conducted by roll call vote. For items with public comment, after members have spoken, the chair will afford public comment as follows. By phone, dial *9 to raise your hand and wait to be recognized. Please note that part of your phone number will be visible to those viewing the meeting. By Zoom, click raise hand on the bottom of your screen and wait to be recognized. The chair will ask members of the public who wish to speak to identify the names and addresses only. Once the chair has a list of all public commentators, I will call each by name and afford 3 minutes for any comments. A reminder that this meeting is being recorded and will be available for viewing via the Northborough Remote Meetings tab on the town's website. John or Sadie, do either of you have the public notice?
I believe I do.
Notice.
The reading? Yeah, we don't have the... Oh, well, you know what? Don't worry about that. Kelly Marston. Unmute yourself.
Hi.
Welcome, welcome. Kelly, do you have the public notice?
Maybe in
Okay.
the email that I just put over here. I have the legal ad, yes.
That's it.
Okie dokie. Where would you like me to start reading?
Go ahead. Ignore all of the, the preliminary stuff. I covered that already.
Okay. So, the meeting will include the following hearings pursuant to MGL Chapter 131, Section 40, the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act, the Northborough Wetlands Protection Bylaw, and or the Northborough Stormwater Management and Land Disturbance Bylaw. Request to amend Order of Conditions number 247-1226 and amend Stormwater Management and Land Disturbance permit number 2023-03 at 2 Buena Vista Street, map and parcel 73-77 by Ronald Heckman of Heckman Homes LLC. The proposed changes are to revise the site design to accommodate a larger duplex building and make a sewer connection to South Street. The work will alter the 100-foot buffer zone, 25-foot no disturb setback, 35-foot no structure setback, and more than 1 acre of land. Next, request for determination of applicability. CSX Transportation Incorporated is requesting confirmation of wetland resource areas on multiple properties throughout Northborough in association with their vegetation management plan for 2025 through 2029. Exemption from the requirement to notify abutters under the Northborough Wetland Bylaw has been requested. The work will alter the 100-foot buffer zone, 25-foot no disturb setback.
Very good. Thank you, Kelly. Okay, we can't do a meeting minutes here, Vinny, because Kelly was out last month, Todd was in, and both Dan is gone this month too. So we'll just kick it to the end of the meeting if Todd shows up. We can work on that. Okay. We have a number of continuations here this month. Question is, do we have to do each one individually, or can we do a blanket continuation of all 4 of them? You're muted. You're muted. You're still, there you go.
Yes, you can do it your way. I didn't plan for that, but that's a good way to do it.
All right. So we've got the continuation for the Church Street culvert, 700 feet east of Fay Lane. We've got a continuation for the NOI for Howard Street culvert, 700 feet south of Washburn Street. We have a continuation for stormwater management and land disturbance permit application, 3711 Reservoir Street. And finally, we have a continuation just recently received for the amendment for stormwater management, land disturbance for 2 Buena Vista Street. So we need a motion to continue those four hearings to June.
I make a motion to move those 4 hearings just mentioned to June.
Is there a
Second.
second?
Second.
Second by Kelly. Roll call. John Johnson,
Yes.
Kelly Marston,
Yes.
Sadie Stone,
Yes.
and I vote yes. Those 4 are continued to June. Okay, Church Street culvert, the ANRAD. We bring Scott in for that one.
Here he is.
Yep, Scott, I'm bringing you in a panelist.
Okay.
There he
I'm
is.
here.
Hey, Scott,
Hello.
how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. This first one should be about as quick as you can get. It's an ANRAD, and we've already discussed it. I believe you've looked at the flagging. It was done in conjunction with the other Church Street culvert and the Howard Street culvert by the same consultant and the same field visit. So I'm happy to answer any questions, but I advised our professional wetland scientist that his presence was not necessarily warranted this evening, as we didn't
Yep.
receive any comments on the flagging.
I think the reason we kicked it over, it wasn't lack of information from DP.
Yes, we just hadn't gotten a DEP number on it or comments.
No comments?
Well, the comments they had were to verify the wetland delineation, and it's
That's been done.
that also is as easy as it gets.
There's
Okay.
a
Side of the road.
what this whole thing is.
Okay. Any questions from the commission?
None.
Let me see if we have any audience participation. Have any questions from the audience? We do not. Then we need a motion to close the hearing for the Church Street culvert ANRAD.
I make a motion to close the hearing on the Church Street ANRAD.
Second.
Roll call vote. John Johnson,
Yes.
Kelly Marston,
Yes.
Sadie Stone.
yes,
I vote yes. All right. One down. School Street, I think we got School Street we can also talk about, right, Scott?
Yeah, that's correct.
Um, Same thing. We got some comment. Did we get anything back from DEP, Vinny? Any comments?
They had comments about the School Street, the bordering land subject to flooding delineation. And I think their consultant responded and explained that all the work is going to be done in the area returned to the existing conditions, the existing elevations. So there should be no impacts to the bordering land subject to flooding.
Great.
And we got a number.
Well, we got a number, most importantly, yes. Vinny, sorry, commissioners, any questions or comments?
No.
Everybody's good. Checking the public. No hands up. All right, then we need a motion to close the hearing for the NOI over the School Street Bridge.
I make a motion to close the NOI on the School Street Bridge over the Assabet River.
Is there a second?
second,
Second by both Kelly and Sadie simultaneously. Roll call vote. John Johnson,
Yes.
Kelly Marston,
Yes.
Sadie Stone.
yes.
I vote yes. Right. I think that's it. Is that it for you, Scott? I think so.
Yeah, that's it. I'll be back in June for the culvert slip lining. I appreciate the time you've taken tonight, and the long discussion we had on both filings was very informative for all of us, I believe.
Sure. Good, good. All right. All right.
Thank you.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Enjoy the good weather. Okay. Continuation. I think we have CSX, Vinny, right?
Yes. Yes.
Let's see. I got a hand up in the audience. I've got a Kip Callahan.
Kip, yes.
I'm going to bring him in as a panelist. I presume it's a him. I believe Kip can Kip be a woman's name too, Kip? You can, yeah. But not this time. Okay.
Roll the dice.
Welcome, Kip.
Good evening.
All right, so Vinny, you want to set us up here? What's going on?
Oh, well, this is for the railroad annually goes out and does maintenance for their rail line to keep it free of dangerous objects so they can operate appropriately. Annually, they go out and spray herbicides and clear the lines. As part of that, every 5 years, they need to get a review done to confirm the sensitive areas along the line. This is that 5-year period, and this is called a vegetative management plan.
Mhm.
It will run from 2025 to 2029. And then within that time, every year, they'll go out probably in July or August and do the actual spraying in the areas where they're allowed to.
Okay.
I think Kip can run the show from here.
Yeah, I'll give some background on this project. And so my name is Kip Callahan. I'm from VHB and I'm here on behalf of CSX. And as Vinny mentioned, we've submitted this RDA as part of the process associated with the railroad's 5-year vegetation management plan.
Mhm.
And that 5-year vegetation management plan, combined with the yearly operational plan, outline the methods and the timing, et cetera, of the herbicide application. And that those plans are approved through the Department of Agriculture, kind of at the state level. They're published in the Environmental Monitor. The notices are published in the Environmental Monitor. But as the regulations in the WPA and in 333 CMR 11, which is the rights of way management regulations of the pesticide board, it stipulates that the wetland boundaries and essentially the no spray and limited spray zones need to be approved by the local conservation commissions as part of that overall process. So we're here seeking that approval. And the different spray restrictions are outlined. The criteria for the different spray restrictions are outlined in those regulations in the rights of way management. But the quick summary of it is there's no spraying within 10 feet of wetlands. And there's limited to every other year spraying in proximity to certain drinking water sources, and in close proximity to certain drinking water sources, there is no spray. And so we'll kind of run through, what I can do is I can run through the plan set and kind of show you, I'll kind of go through the map, so show what the different zones are, and then we can kind of run through the overall map. And also, and I'll give a little bit of kind of background on the methodology, and then how we mark the tracks and how we actually did this survey. So the way that the herbicide is typically applied is through what's called a high rail spray truck. So a high rail system is the system that's fitted to an otherwise regular kind of road vehicle that allows it to drive on the railway. And so whoever the contractor ends up being will have essentially a truck with a big tank on it that's equipped with a high rail system, and they'll mix herbicide in the tank, and then they have a low pressure boom at the back of the truck that will spray herbicide on the railroad ballast. And that spray is essentially a 12-foot pattern on either side of the center line of the track. So for 24 feet total. But the way we break down our no spray zones, for example, is anything within 22 feet of that center line. So that 12-foot spray pattern plus the 10-foot no spray zone. Any wetlands that fall within that 22 feet will trigger a no spray zone. And this maintenance is really important for a couple reasons. One is obviously vegetation growing in the tracks can interfere with the operation of the trains. But the other thing, and one of the reasons this is so important, is that especially herbaceous annual vegetation, as it dries out and dies, becomes a fire hazard, and the trains produce a lot of sparks both from braking, but then there's also a rail grinding process where they have these special trains that grind the rail that keeps the shape, that helps keep the trains on the track and running smoothly, and that process puts out a lot of sparks as well. And so this vegetation management is an important safety consideration for the railroad. The way that we go and verify these areas and mark the spray zones is we ride the tracks basically from Worcester to the New York state line in those high rail vehicles, looking for wetlands and wells and things like that. And we have this historic data set that's been based on previous work. We use that to help guide us. And so when we see something that doesn't match with the historic data set, so for example, oh, that looks wet, but we don't have it as a no spray zone, we'll get out, we'll verify, is there a wetland that we didn't previously have marked on our plans? And we have a tape measure that we go and measure these different features. And then we actually mark the rails and the tracks themselves the rails and the ties as part of this process. So we use primarily oil-based paint, and I'll when I go through the plans, it'll kind of make a little bit more sense. But we mark sort of two colors to indicate when you're coming into or out of a no spray or limited spray zone, and that's to ensure that when the operators are driving the trucks along the tracks, it's very clear to them where these zones start and end, regardless of which direction they're coming. And then we've also in the past had someone with a GPS device and the essentially GIS plans that I'm going to show you loaded onto a device so that as operators driving down the tracks, they have someone else also paying attention to this, making sure that the restrictions are followed. And if it makes sense, I'll kind of go through this plan set.
Kip, how many miles of track in Northborough are we talking about?
I think it's approximately 4 miles, and so I'm about to pull up the plan set, and you'll be able to see this cover sheet. So this kind of gives some context of where this section of track is located. So I can kind of zoom in here. So Berlin is up here, the Berlin town line, and then it kind of comes through this northeast corner of the town and goes into Marlborough before going to Southborough. And so it's probably 4 to 5 miles of track through the town. So that gives you kind of the overall orientation, and then I'll go through the
Excuse me, can you blow it up a little bit more for me?
Yeah, I think that's about as big as I can make it, I think.
Okay.
Um,
I was trying to get some idea where we are here. So is this the track that's behind Iron Mountain over by the senior center? Do we know?
Yes.
Okay. Is this the track also goes through downtown?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep, and it goes down by the golf course.
Yes. Okay. Okay. Good. Good. Thanks, Kip.
Yep. Okay. Then we'll zoom out. Okay, so we'll just kind of run through this. So this is the Berlin town line. And then we have coming from the north, we have a no spray zone here that's associated with this stream crossing. And so the way that we depict these things is that blue is buffer zone, and you'll see it's limited 1-year spray. And there are some restrictions on what herbicides can be used in the buffer zone. But to make things easy, CSX and the contractors always use an approved mix. And those details are listed in the yearly operational plan, which I believe you've received notice of, and that's available publicly. And so there's not really a distinction from a operational standpoint made with the buffer zone, because CSX only applies herbicide once a year and applies one of the approved mix along the whole length of the track, because they don't want to mess around with having to switch out different mixes. And then yellow is no spray zone. So these are generally areas where there's wetlands within 10 feet. And you can see that we'll have differences between on side to side between these spray zones. And what this indicates is that this wetland area is bigger on, in this case, the west side. So that it's a little confusing because these plans are not oriented north-south, but there's a wetter area here. So this no spray zone is bigger on this side. And the operators have the ability to shut off the spray directionally. So they have a control panel in the truck. And so when they come to something like this, if say they're coming from the north, they'll shut off both sides here. And then when they get to this spot, they'll turn back on this east side spray and leave the west side spray off until they leave this zone. And that's where really these markings on the track are especially helpful. So that's why things look like that. We have another buffer zone over here. And then coming down here, we have another no spray zone for a stream crossing. And so we have included the wetland data from the DEP, but there are times where those streamlines don't perfectly match the field conditions. And so we have these call outs to note that, where this stream's conveyed under the tracks where this no spray zone is, not where this actual line goes.
Just to ask a question, when was the last time it was actually flagged in the field, or when someone went out there and you said you used historical data? When was that done?
Well, so every 5 years, people are going and checking all of this. So So last fall, I rode this whole length and we stopped at every one of these zones. And we checked that the spray markings were accurate. And so the reason that we're confident in this is we brought a high precision GPS and we measured all of these things so that these spray restriction zones are correct.
Kip, were there any areas of these zones that had a dramatic increase or a dramatic decrease that we should be aware of?
No, there haven't been any substantial changes since the last time. There are some minor updates. Like I don't think in Northborough we removed anything, but I know out in Western Mass there were some places where the culverts were actually farther away. And so we removed some spray zones there, and there were a couple places where there's maybe minor change to the wetland boundary, and so we modified those, but there wasn't anything super significant.
Thank you.
Here's the next page. So here we have callouts because this stream is depicted coming underneath the tracks, but you can see we don't have a no spray zone. And that's because this is culverted here. And these culvert openings are greater than 22 feet away from the center line of the track. And so we measured all of these culverts to make sure that that there wasn't anything that was close enough to need a no spray zone. Here we just want to note that even though this wetland layer from DEP depicts this as being close to the track and in the spray zone, we measured all of this, and so that this wetland is actually just on this side and doesn't actually come over here.
And that's the area that's by the senior center, is that right?
I'm not familiar enough with
Oh,
Northborough
okay. Your next picture might show it.
landmarks, yeah.
Yes.
Right, is that it? Is that Iron Mountain right here?
Yeah, on the bottom of the picture, but up in the left corner above the
Yes.
trail rail line is that pond that we just did the ADA trail around.
Mm-hmm.
So we've been out there a few times.
And the rest, that's Edmund Hill there to the right. Okay.
Yep.
Yep, and so we have significant wetland area along here, so that's why this is all no spray zone, and some additional wetland here. Then over here we've got some more wetland areas along here, and then here's the stream crossing there.
Right. So I went out to that site and I was trying to find the delineations of the wetland and I didn't find any. How are we supposed to verify the wetland delineations if they're not marked in the field?
Yeah, so that's kind of up to the commission's discretion how they want to do that. Historically, we've marked these zones like this and they're painted on the tracks, and so the measurements are a function of these zones are how we've depicted the proximity to the wetlands, but the wetlands themselves and the streams have not been flagged.
No wonder I couldn't find them. Okay, that's good.
Yep.
And then I know you're doing some tie replacement out there. Do they pay attention to when there's a painted tie, or because in the past I know in other locations that the reason the markers on the rail line were not there was because they were doing a tie replacement project, and it's tough to monitor when you have one crew going out there pulling the ties and then another one painting them. But is there some coordination?
There's not. So, we mark these ties every 5 years, and sometimes these ties get replaced. But that's part of why we send someone along with the operator with these maps in case there are missing marks.
Okay, and in the past you've had like a high rail visit inspection with commission members if they wanted to do it?
Yep. Yeah, and so that's something that if the commission decides that's what they'd like to do, we can coordinate that with CSX.
So Kip, is this a two-step process where step one is that you actually confirm the markings or make the markings themselves. And step two is a second trip you spray.
Yes. So we did all the, basically we did all these did all the mapping and basically these were all used to be paper maps, and so we updated everything to GIS. And then a big part of what we did this year was we brought a high precision GPS with us, so that we had previously had loaded the data into GIS, but it was based on paper maps. And so this is now, all of these boundaries have been GPSed, so they're a lot more precise than the previous paper maps. And yeah, we went out and we spent basically a month going along the whole rail line and painting all of these markings. And then this vegetation management plan and yearly operational plan process, is undertaken with the updated maps in mind and with the updated process. And then that's since been approved by at the state level through that process. And then now we need, we need to get these boundaries confirmed. And then once that confirmation, it happens across, basically the whole state. So we're doing town by town along, well, at least in this case, we're doing the main line, which goes from Worcester to the New York line. So I think it's something like 30 municipalities. And I guess this is actually the Fitchburg here. So we're also doing from Worcester to Framingham, and this is the Fitchburg secondary that we're actually talking about here. But there's 40 municipalities overall as part of this process. And once we get all of those RDAs through the commissions, then they'll go out later this year and do the spraying.
Yeah, I was going to ask you if you have a target for when you want to get the spraying done. So it's later in 25.
Yeah, I think ideally we're looking at June, like mid-June, because there is a timing window based on the phenology of the target plants. And so if it's too late in the year, then those herbaceous plants will have dried out and the herbicide's not effective anymore. So we're really trying to get through all these hearings in the next basically next 30 days.
Okay, two more quick questions I have. One is the actual herbicide, is it nasty like Roundup type of situation, or it's
I can't speak to the herbicide, so that's part of what's in the yearly operational plan. And so Vinny, did you get a copy of that notification?
I did not get a copy of that notification. I
Okay.
checked, I didn't get it electronically or through the regular mail.
Okay, so Keith Morris is another consultant from a different, he works for someone else. He's the one that sent those out. I can get in touch with him and then make sure that you have a copy of that letter. I don't know why it hasn't come to the commission yet, but
I did get a letter from Keith Morris just saying something was occurring. It didn't have any of the background facts or what pesticides or herbicides are being used.
yeah, so that letter, I think, briefly lists some of the list of possible herbicides and who the contractor is, but there's also a link, I believe, in that letter. There's a page that I can also email you links to, where that yearly operational plan and the vegetation management plan, they're publicly available. And so there's a website where those documents can be downloaded. And that's where you can look at what that list of approved, because the pesticide regulation board, pesticide board has laid out what are approved herbicides for this kind of vegetation management. And so the contractors who do the spraying are all licensed operators, and they have to follow all these right-of-way management regulations and the WPA regulations. And so they'll use an herbicide from that approved list, and that the details of that is outlined in those two plans. But that's kind of outside of the scope of what I'm familiar with.
Last question I have for you, Kip, is there a weather situation where if you're planning to spray a certain day or whatever and it's really blowing 30 knots, whatever, do you back off from that because you could have issues with carry?
Yeah, so this is also a little bit outside of the scope of my expertise, but there are state pesticide application regulations, And the operators who are doing the application are required to be licensed within the state and to follow those application guidelines. And so they're responsible for, they have like little wind meters and things like that. And they know all of the different herbicides will have labels. And part of licensing and application guidelines is you have to follow the instructions on the label. And so those labels also have guidelines about concentrations, spraying conditions, things like that. And so those licensed applicators will follow those regulations and the label instructions to make sure that the application is done safely.
Okay, good, thank you. Any questions from the commission? Comments?
I have one.
Sure.
Kip, so as Vinny had mentioned, there's been significant tie maintenance happening on this rail line that runs significantly. A point of interest that I have is between the center of town and all the way up past through 290. Have those rails, and will there be a repainting of those rails that have been replaced in those wetland areas that are zoned? I know it's been significant. I've seen the ties pushed to the side that have been replaced. So will those areas get repainted to designate those areas?
So it depends on the timing of when those rails or when those ties were removed. So we did all the painting, I believe for this portion of the line was somewhere between October and November. There's not currently any plans, as far as I know, to repaint the ties if they were removed after that, between now and when we did them in the fall. But yeah, at the moment, as far as I know, there are not any plans to repaint those ties if they've been removed.
So you can understand my concern there, that when will
Yeah.
the operator know when to spray and when not to spray if those indicators have been removed?
Yeah, so that's, like I said, what we did. So I rode along with the operator last year, and I know the previous year, the same thing. We have these plans loaded into a tablet that's connected to a precision GPS device. And one of us is actually in the passenger seat of that truck with the operator. And so we can see where we are, and we can warn the operator, hey, we have a no spray zone coming up. And then say, hey, you need to shut it off now, that kind of thing, as a backup to those markings.
Okay.
And I can speak to, at least last year, that was really helpful because a lot of I think previously water-based paint had been used to paint the ties, and after 5 years it had worn down quite a bit. And so it was, really pretty essential to have people riding along. And I think that's part of why that's the practice now.
Very good. Thank you.
Okay, good.
Yeah, that's something that I think if we do a high rail, and that's what I would recommend, that we continue this hearing, and either just myself or anyone else who would want to go, we do a high rail and we verify that the markings are there. In the past, I've seen actual plates, like a blue and a white colored plate that's nailed down to the ties. But the paint it does wear off, and if they're using their experience in using oil-based, that would probably help. But it'd be good to make sure that things are there before we approve things right now.
Okay, fair enough. Any more
Yeah,
questions? The commission,
and-
sorry.
We can definitely arrange a ride. Just one thing that I think is good for the commission to know is the logistics of that are a little bit complicated. So we probably want to try and make that happen as soon as we can. And we'll need, probably hopefully not so bad on the Fitchburg line, because not very many trains run. But it can be tricky sometimes navigating the timing of that with the trains. But actually we should be in pretty good shape on this line. On the main line, it's a bit of a nightmare, but I think there's only 1 or 2 trains that run a day on the Fitchburg.
Okay, question for you. If we continue this until the June meeting, pending the verification, we meet on June 9th. Does that still work within your plans?
Yeah, that should be fine. I have several other towns where the hearing is in mid-June. So I think that's in alignment with kind of our expectations.
Okay. Any more questions from the commission, comments? Welcome,
No.
Todd. I see you there. Thank you. I'm looking at any questions from the audience. Any attendees having hands up? Okay, good. Then we are looking here to continue the RDA for CSX transportation to the June meeting.
Move to continue.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Second by John. Roll call. Todd Helwig,
Yes.
John Johnson,
Yes.
Kelly Marston,
Yes.
Stacey Stone,
Yes.
and I'll vote yes. So Todd, you'll sync up with Vinny on dates and so forth. And Vinny, if you want to open that up, once you know if anybody wants to participate.
Yes, that sounds great.
Good. Good. All right. Thank you, Kip.
Yeah, thank you.
We'll see you in June, if not before.
Sounds great. Thank you so much.
Okay. Good night.
Good night.
Todd, thank you for joining. I know you were triple booked or something tonight, so keep all those balls in the air.
Paying clients.
Paying clients. Well, I
Tough to
have no
compete with
fun.
that.
All right. That is the agenda, Vinny.
Those are the hearings, except for
Yeah,
COC.
very wild. We're kicking a lot of stuff down the road here still, but hopefully when we get when Scott gets to an agreement with DEP, that'll help quick on those two. So
Yes, I think those will move along.
yeah. COC for 29 Fay Lane.
Yes, this is one, the commission approved it last year, and they built something close, and I think you can see the map from my screen. Come on.
I see a map.
See map? Oh, good.
Mhm.
So what we have is the driveway and the house are here. The house is in red. The driveway comes in red and then drives off to Fay Lane, 29 Fay Lane. The black line there and there is the location of the old wall, the old retaining wall next to the foundation. It
And didn't that
collapsed.
wall fail? It failed, right?
Yeah, it collapsed. This section was the section that was collapsed and was down in this area here. So they removed all that and they installed this dark black, maybe like hatched line. That's where the wall is located. They built it there. It was approved on this solid red line. So the difference is this approved line is this solid red line. And then what was built is the black line. Not terribly different. It's about 6 foot, 5 or 6 feet off in that area. And the wetlands line is this green line. So the area that really moved is not within the 35-foot no structures, but this area here where they built it in the right location is pretty much where you allowed it to be at 30 feet off. So they built it and they're requesting a certificate of compliance, and just want to let the commission know that it's not quite what they agreed to, but it's for your consideration to approve or not.
Do we know why they built it where they did? Was there some sort of engineering reason?
I think it was a big rock on the footing at the base. There was a big rock in this location close to it, so they moved around. So that's kind of, I think, why they went around and then caught again the line.
Now, when we approved this, didn't we put in some no cutting rules about where they would mow the lawn or weed whack the vegetation?
Yes, and they're allowed to do 2 feet off the bottom of the wall for weed whack, and that will be a continuing condition in the certificate of compliance.
Okay. All right. Questions from the commission, comments?
I walked this area by that wall, and I don't have any concerns with that protrusion coming out a few feet. It was pretty far distance from the wetland area. I can understand looking at how it was built. why they probably did it that way, but I don't see an impact to the wetland, the vegetation at all with that protrusion.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay. See any attendees? So we are looking to issue a certificate of compliance for 29 Fay Lane with the existing conditions, Vinnie, right?
Yeah, as built. Yep.
So
We have a
moved.
stamped as built.
Second.
Second by Kelly, roll call vote. Todd Helwig,
Oh,
Todd Helwig,
Oh, yeah, sorry. Thought I did my part.
John Johnson,
Yes.
Kelly Marston,
yes.
Sadie Stone,
Yes.
and I vote yes. All right. Uh, violations, 186 Barefoot Road.
All right. And okay, so this,
For those who don't know what we're talking about, if you go down, I guess it's Whitney Street, right?
That's right.
yes.
You take a right on where it says, the road, Barefoot Road into the senior center, and it's the second or third house on the left there.
It's the second on the left, and it's just before 290. That's right.
So Vinny, some history here too, right?
Yes, back in I think it was 2022, they requested, or they were putting solar on the roof, and they requested to take down a couple of trees. And I went out to inspect, and I found some filling down. If you can see my picture, there was some filling down in this area, and then along the front of the property, there was dumped yard waste, brush, uh, just debris. And we came to an agreement that they were going to remove all that and then put in a line of boulders to delineate where they're allowed to be and where they're not supposed to go. And in the last 2 years, I've been out there twice, and the boulders have since been removed. And there's more junk that got dumped into the wetland area. The blue flags on the wetlands still exist out there, or they were 2 weeks ago when I was out there last. And there's brush and just things dumped right into the wetland or right adjacent to the wetland.
Yep.
So I walked up into the back area. This is the upper area, and there's wetlands from my arrow pointer you can see here. There's wetlands down in this low area here, and this pile has all been filled without a permit within the buffer zone to the wetlands. And I have another picture, I think. Another picture of that pile. There's a excavator here, and material just got dumped out the back, and this is all wetland down in the back there. So I talked to the owner. He was apologetic and I think wants to work with us, but he has no knowledge of the Wetlands Protection Act. So I suggest that we probably hire someone that knows what to do, and have a plan agreed to remove the debris that was dumped in there and put in a clear boundary to make that happen. The options are to do it through an enforcement order that I can issue. The commission can vote to ratify that tonight, or we could do it and require them to go out, hire someone, file a notice of intent, hold a public hearing, and then we get that recorded and then we do it. So it's a little bit more cumbersome, probably much more expensive because they're then hiring a professional to prepare a plan. This one, I don't know that they need a plan just because it's pretty obvious where they dumped stuff where they shouldn't have and they should pull it out. So I would like the commission to consider just doing an enforcement order to have the material removed appropriately and a demarcation to limit any future encroachment be installed, whether that's a fence or boulders or some other mechanism. So I guess I leave it up to the commission to discuss. And
Vinny, at one point in time, you sent me the historical pictures, and one of them the boulders were there. There was a string of boulders that was a demarcation point. Did he say why he took those out? He put them there, then he took them out.
He didn't have enough room for his parking, I think.
Okay.
Oh, well, that's good.
Let me see if I can pull up those.
They were big boulders too.
Yes. Yeah.
Does he own the excavator?
Yes.
Yes.
Always dangerous, Kelly. Always
Kelly,
dangerous.
he definitely has the material and the equipment to make those maneuvers.
All right. Did my new picture come up?
Not yet.
Okay.
I still see the fence leaning against the rock and Christmas
Yep.
tree or something out there. And
Right. No, I have to load a different picture. There you go. So this is looking down towards Barefoot Road.
now, when was this taken?
Oh boy.
This is like 2021, right?
Let's say, yeah, it's on there somewhere.
Looks so nice.
Yeah.
Yes,
A
and this
lot of
area
effort
off to
put
the
into
right is
that.
now, the area to the right is filled with junk and debris, and there's a wetland flag just off the picture. And actually, it might be on the picture, but it's like right in here.
Mhm.
This was taken a year ago, April 2023.
Well, 2 years ago.
2 years ago.
Oh, 2 years ago, yes.
Yeah. Okay. Now, those boulders, I think, there may be one or two left, but most part they're gone.
Yes. Oh, not sure how that happened, but it just did. So that's looking the other way, looking back up towards the area where the fill that was in the first picture is. So it was a pretty substantial area, and he had improved this. And right now, this tree has kind of this gravel material up to the back side of the boulders. And I'd like to return to this condition right here.
Those boulders aren't cheap. I wonder if he sold them.
I don't know, but I think he does work that he can get more of them.
Oh.
So, Vinny, your suggestion is an enforcement order with two criteria. One, get the material that's in the wetlands out of the wetlands. And number two, put up some sort of permanent demarcation.
Yes.
Okay. Questions, comments from the commission?
I'm willing to do what Vinny suggests here.
I'm in favor of an enforcement order.
I am also.
Me too.
Okay. We've got nodding heads. Looks like that's the plan, Vinny. We should vote that, right?
Yes, so you could recommend that I issue an enforcement order.
So we're looking for a motion to recommend to Vinny to issue the enforcement order for 186 Barefoot Road with the criteria that you mentioned.
So moved.
Second.
Second, boy, everybody's seconding him today. It's crazy.
Yeah.
That was Sadie this time. Roll call vote. Todd Hellwig,
Yes.
John Johnson,
Yes.
Kelly Marston,
Yes.
Sadie Stone,
Yes.
and I vote yes. Okay. Thank you, Vinny.
Excellent, thank you.
Forest stewardship proposal.
Well, we had a forest request for proposals for forestry work for the
You
town.
got so many responses, you had to sort them by.
I've been really busy with this one.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got zero.
Okay.
No responses. But just last Friday, I got a phone call from Wigmore, the one that we got the last time, Wigmore Forest Management, who I think is very qualified and able to do the work. She said, well, I missed it because I had other projects and she was buried, but she thinks she'll be freeing up in the next couple of months and would be willing to review it and put a proposal in. But I've contacted the DPW director, Scott, and he feels we have to advertise it all again. So this is deja vu all over again. The last time we did this, we advertised, got zero, got a response, advertised again, and we got her. but then we had trouble with the old town administrator's basic contract documents. They were pretty stringent and it fell through. So do we want to follow that path again and advertise, see if we can get this person or this company and another one that might not have been paying attention to the notices?
Couldn't we just extend the timeline?
We could have if it was before May 1st. It expired on May 1st at noon.
Hmm.
It just involves notifying or advertising it in the Common App or something like that. Oh no, that's colleges. Something
Community
else.
advertising?
No, there's a state bidding document that it has to go to, and it has to be put out as a legal ad to the newspaper. So it's going to cost us another $100 more.
How long have we been at this?
I've been here for almost 3 years, so it's been 2 3/4.
Did it start with you?
We finished up when I got on board 3 years ago, about this time, you had approved the most current forest management plans. And in that, it said you should be doing a harvest operation. And so we started doing this process then. And it's a difficult thing to find foresters that want to work around in the city. I think just by their makeup, they like being out in the woods and being out on their own and not in front of a board or in front of a public hearing. So it's
Well, I
tough.
guess the question is if we keep doing this, are we just going to get the same result and it's just a waste of your time and effort?
That's a possibility. But I got a phone call from Wigmore Forest Management, who said she would call me early this week and we would talk about doing it if I can extend, or if I can either extend the contract or re-advertise the contract. I also got a email from the service forester asking who I sent it off directly to, and there were 9 members. And he said he would try to put the word in if we advertised it again. So I was waiting to kind of make the decision on all that based on whether the commission wants to try this one more time or whether we want to just cut bait and let it go. We lost Tom, who was the big driver, and I think Dan is another big driver for it. But I think it's something we should act on at this meeting just to try to make it. I think we should try to make it happen, but it's your
Well,
call.
then if again, I mean, because Dan, I think you're right. I think Dan would be wanting to do this, and if you're still on board, then I'm on board.
All
Kelly,
right.
when you were in Westboro, who did you use? Do you remember?
Oh, I don't remember. I just remember the hullabaloo around it.
Yeah.
And I can understand why a forester wouldn't want to work in that situation. People screaming at you all day long for cutting a tree.
Well, I'm sure we would have none of that in Northborough.
Oh, no, definitely not.
So I'm good with moving ahead as give it another shot.
I think it's a great idea. I think we should definitely do it.
Okay. So they got 1, 2. Sadie, what do you think? That's the only one I haven't heard about.
Yep, I think we should go ahead too as well.
All right. All right. We don't need a formal vote. I just need to put it all out there.
All right. Um, all right. Do you want to talk about 4 through 2 Whitney Street? It's not on the agenda.
It's not on your agenda?
Not on my agenda.
I must have an old version because it's on mine. Okay.
And handwritten on yours, I bet, too.
Yeah.
So Vinny and I walked it on Thursday. 1.5 miles, was it, I think?
Yeah, just under 1.5 miles. Yes. Yep.
So it was interesting.
It's a nice walk for you that have been out there on this project before. It's grown in quite a bit. There are a lot of like 1-inch diameter poplars popping up along the railroad tracks that they are putting this trail through. So the area where you walk in from the street It goes down, there's an old driveway that goes down into the railroad. You can follow that, then take a left down where he was making his old driveway. And uh, and that area is still cleared, but then where it gets to the low point and then starts back up the hill, there's vegetation growing. And so they're staying close to the railroad side, right on the property line pretty much, and running a trail all the way there down to the back of the property and then looping around on the kind of around the perimeter of the open area along the top of the site. Actually, I might have the old picture, but I don't think I have the new one.
Yeah, there is a pretty nice view off the backside. We look across to some DCR, a DCR swamp area where there's a significant beaver lodge.
Yes, yeah, it's like a hotel. It's
Yeah.
a big one. So this is where you come in off the road. The Whitney Street is here. The railroad tracks run along the bottom of the picture. You come in off the road here. Watch out, it's a big tall curb to go over. And then you go into the property and it's barred off by a log. And then you can walk in along the road and then down to a point about here where it's open. And they're keeping that trail close to the property line. And they're also right here, it goes into a wooded area that then they've got a trail with flags about every 15 feet. You can see them pretty easily that goes all the way around and then comes down to this point. And it continues around this area here and runs along a couple of big boulders with a walk that goes down to the shore, the water's edge, and you can see a nice beaver lodge there and heron nest up in the tree towards I think that's the south. And then it loops back through here, not along the steep slope. There's a little one spot where it's a little steeper where they go down, but then it's still safe and it turns back into here and meets up with this path and goes back. Then they also have a trail that comes across here and then loops up in this area here and then back around and ties into itself with another stub that goes across these two little wet areas to get to the DCR property. These are probably 4 or 5 foot wide low areas, and they're proposing that they'll be coming in with a request for determination of applicability to request crossings using a bridging structure with a pile that just twists like a drill into the ground, and they put the beams across those. So it's very little impact to the wetland, but it looks like a nice trail, nice view out. And then there'll be also this area, I think it's up in this area here, was stripped. That's where the prior owner was going to put a house or a farm building. So it's all dug up and stripped. And it's not a bad spot to let kids run around and throw rocks and do what kids do up at the top area that's open. So there would be just like a little access trail that went into that. So there are different amenities for the different users. And I think the trail layout looks good. It's going to be 4 feet wide. They're going to try to clear 4 feet wide for the trees, keep the path a little over 3 feet wide. Not going to be handicap accessible. It's going to be bicycle accessible and hiker accessible. And I'm open to your thoughts and comments.
I'm sorry I missed the opportunity. I definitely want to walk it. So,
Yeah,
but it looks great.
it's not hard to follow. When it gets to the looping stuff, you may end up, because the trails are not far apart because there's not a lot of area to do a loop, but they wanted to have a single crossing and then a loop in here and then another single crossing across those. I did take the iPad out there and I have an image of the trail itself that I followed making a track line, but I couldn't get my computer savvy is not as good as it should be. I couldn't put that onto this drawing, but it's generally in a similar alignment as this drawing.
When you're walking that bottom path that goes into the DCR area, is it clear that the Northborough Trail is entered and you've turned into DCR property? Or,
Yes, that's
Stone
there's a
wall,
stone
right?
wall
oh, it's a stone
across
wall?
there.
Okay,
And there's a break in the stone wall right where they have shown, because this is an old, it's an old access road where that trail is shown. You can see where the tire ruts are going down towards the wetlands. So I think that was the access to do the forestry operations that existed back 40 or 50 years ago on the DCR property.
Yeah, Vinny, as you know, I'm not totally sold on the stub yet, but I think the rest of the trail looks pretty good.
Good.
So they are looking, the Trails Committee is looking to move forward with a cleanup activity. I mean, there's barbed wire out there. There's 100 broken pallets. There's various other pieces of trash and rubbish. They want to get to work cleaning that up, right?
Yes, they do. And they wanted some assurance that they would have a trail, the details of which I don't think are as important as the fact that I think they want to hear that the commission is supportive of a trail out there. And to add to this, the DCR has acquired or will soon complete the acquisition of a conservation restriction on this property. There is a 2-acre exclusion for the housing portion that was voted by the town. So on the image here, this corner of the property is excluded from the conservation restriction. So the conservation restriction will probably be recorded in July. The first week in July is the plan now. And within that conservation restriction, to do the cleanup, it would require a permit from the DCR. And it could take a little bit, we would probably get the permit, but it's a process that we really don't need to go through if we can get the work done by the end of June. I contacted the chair of the Trails Committee, and he said he thinks that they would be able to get that work done. It's a lot of work.
It is a lot of work.
There's big piles of pallets, but they could then take them and bring them from the areas, and the pallets are pretty much located from about here along this to here, and then they would have to haul them back to a point up in this area here. The DPW is in agreement that they'd be willing to haul it away and take care of it if it gets brought out to one location. So we've got a lot of people volunteer to help out, and I think that's good. And the DCR is willing to kind of delay the CR restriction until July so that the work can get done without having to go through a permit. So I think we can have everything fall together if the commission can make a decision and decide whether they want a trail or not.
Well, we're missing 2 commissioners here for a vote. So,
Well, we need a majority, so.
right. What are the feelings of the commission?
I don't want to delay on my behalf, but I sure would like to walk it. I like what I see.
I can't really see myself voting against a trail there at the end of the day.
Maybe some qualification as to what the trail would look like or go or whatever, but the fact that when it would exist.
Yeah.
And I think that's the level we're looking at, because they still have to file an RDA, which then gets reviewed, and if it meets the standards required, then the commission would do a negative determination. If they want to ask for something that doesn't, then it's a positive determination, and then they would need a notice of intent. But generally, trails qualify under an RDA, generally.
Okay.
The question that comes up is the crossings of wetlands, whether they're necessary or not. But I think the idea of a trail out here is probably what they're really looking for.
Kelly, Sadie, what do you think?
Yeah, no, I agree that we don't need to put a trail on everything.
Yep.
But Vinny sold me with kids throwing rocks in the field, so that's what I would do, throw rocks in the field.
But we're not throwing rocks at the nestings, okay? We're trying to avoid that.
That's right.
Or the trains. We're not throwing rocks at the
The
trains.
trains, or the
Oh,
trains.
oh, Kelly, your colors come out.
Well, the problem too could be, Kelly, is that everybody's blinded by the spray from the trains, right? So they can't see what's going on. So it's
The
crazy.
sparks.
Sadie, what do you think?
Yeah, I am sad I won't have the chance to really walk it beforehand. But I'm glad you guys got to walk it and liked what you saw. I think it's a great idea. I'm for the trail.
Okay, all right.
All right.
So, Venus, I think it's safe to tell the Trails Committee that there seems to be a support for a trail here,
Yes,
which I think is all they're looking for in order to get going with the cleanup.
I think so.
And I
Okay.
think we can probably make the crossing of the wetlands work, if they need to hear that too.
Well, let's see
Right.
what happens from that.
Yeah.
Right.
Now
And
here's
I mean,
another
I think
question.
we can, it could
Sorry,
be
go
a good trail either way.
Vinny, how would in next month we're discussing the whole hunting concept, right? In June.
Yes.
If
Yeah.
hunting is permitted on Northborough land, what does that do to the trail? Anything? Or
Nothing at all. Well, it depends on what you decide. It's up to the commission to reduce the policy. If you keep the policy as is, then hunting would not be allowed on this property. If you make changes to the policy to basically remove all your requirements for hunting in Northborough on conservation land, then you were only going to stick with, I think you were going to stick with deer hunting only and shotgun and bow only. And with those two restrictions, there'd be no impact by having a trail or not having a trail. There's no change to what's going on or how the hunting would occur. This one, just looking at it, people may already hunt for fowl. They may do duck hunting down in that area just because there's water, goose hunting, but that would be off the trails anyway. And it would probably also be off the town conservation land on DCR land because the water is mostly on the DCR land. So the impacts of hunting, I don't know that it really impacts the trail unless the commission wants to hold that 500-foot setback from the trails.
Okay. Okay, do we need to vote, or is this something you can just take the
Nope.
message back?
No, I think just getting the idea, there's no official vote needed. And actually we can't because I didn't put it on the agenda. So I just have a feel of the board.
Okay. You're still trying to get hold of Chief Griffin, right?
I got a hold of him. We talked or we emailed, but that's part of the public hearing. So I don't want to.
Fair enough. Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough. I don't want to go that way. All right, good. We have no attendees externally, so nobody has a hand up, obviously.
Okay.
Anything else going on here, Vinny?
Construction projects are booming. We had lots of rain. And most projects are doing pretty well. We don't have no sad stories. So I think we're doing well. We're trying to button a few up. They're starting to do work on the fire station. And last Friday, I gave them approval on their perimeter barriers. They're still working on how they're going to do the sediment control. And right now they're just they're stripping the loam off and taking the stumps out. So they're starting the earthwork, but that contractor seems to be on top of things. And the town inspectors, we all met out there on Friday in the cold. It was cold and windy. It was surprising for a May day.
Good. And the dog park is moving along?
Yes, I was out there today. Looks really nice. The mulch in the back is nicely laid out. They cleared a lot of poison ivy. There's still a lot of poison ivy sneaking through, but it looks good. I saw some Jack in the Pulpit blossoming out there right outside the back entry, if you want to go for a walk out there. So I was walking the trail that the Trails Committee wants to propose between the dog park and the Old Farm Trail that has the parking lot right down the road, right down Boundary Street. So I took a look at that, and it looks like it's going to be a nice area. We didn't have anything flagged, but at least it looks like a good area to tie into the Old Farm Trail and possibly give the dog people a walk, like a loop. So they'll get some dog park time and also have trail time. It also kind of keeps the dogs off of the other trails in town. So it will help alleviate some of the conflicts that arise between
Yes.
dogs and hikers.
Yes. Specifically the one up here. So
Yes.
Cold Harbor, right? So,
Yes. Yeah.
okay, good, good. Next month, anything coming in that you know about? Besides these continuations, which we have half a dozen of
Yes.
them.
The Newton Street project, I think, is coming in at least with 3 certificate of compliance requests, and maybe they'll have their work done for a notice of intent and a stormwater land disturbance permit application.
Todd, this is Mr. Ramadan's property. And Kelly, remember that?
Mm-hmm. I do.
So he has
So-
a common driveway approved, but his conservation permits all expired and the land disturbance permit didn't exist back then. So he's got to do those before he can get started. This
Well,
property is under agreement. I'm pretty sure it's public, but it's got a purchase and sale by the builder who is building out at 75 Ridge Road. He put those real nice houses in over there, cleaned up a real disaster. And I'm pleased with the work he's done. He was conscientious. He would say he would do something and he did it. Or when he found tanks or things that he didn't expect, he was quick to call and let me know and say, hey, can you come out and take a look at it? And we took care of it, and he was very agreeable. So I'm looking forward to that. It should be an easier project to work on.
no, the NOI, if I remember beforehand, there's a vernal pool up there.
Yes, there's a vernal pool in the back. Yes. And the wetland consultant, I think they're keeping the same wetland consultant, Glenn Kravosky.
There you go.
And so he will have all the details done and I's dotted and the T's crossed. He's very thorough.
Okay. Will the NOI be for the lots too, or just for the common drive?
It'll be for everything, common drives
Wow.
and lot development.
Interesting. Okay.
I
Seems quite
assume
good.
it would be easier on me, but I can't force them to do it differently.
Yeah. All right. We should probably add that to our walk list then for next month. On that one.
Yes. Yes.
All right. So that's pretty significant. Anything else?
Repairing a wall at 13 River Street. The commission approved a wall repair, I think about 10 or so years ago, maybe. And the Assabet River runs right along the back of this property, along the wall, and it's had some damage and collapsed. So they want to do a repair, similar to the
Is
way
this done
they
by the
did it
apartments?
last-
Done by the apartments on River Street?
Just behind Stone's motorcycle, kind of right in that little section behind Stone's, right
Oh,
off
yes.
Route 20.
Yes. 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 Okay. Okay.
So they're coming in, I think. They submitted the paperwork electronically, but had some revisions to do on a plan, but I expect I'll get all the whole package next week.
All right. Good. Good. Before we adjourn, I would like to get approval on the April meeting minutes.
Oh, good memory.
Okay.
Good.
So Kelly, you were not here last month, so you need to recuse yourself. So it's Todd, John, Sadie, and myself. Any
Move to
questions?
approve.
Is there a
It's all
second?
on TV anyway.
Second.
We no escaping that, right? Seconded by Sadie. Roll call vote. Where do we start? Let's start with Todd Helwig,
Yes.
John Johnson,
Yes.
Sadie Stone,
Yes.
and I vote yes. Approved. June 9th. Anybody know of any conflicts they have at this point in time?
I might not be able to make next month, but I'm not positive, but I will email and let you know.
Okay,
I'm leaning towards I will make it, but there's a possibility.
okay. We hope you can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, and hopefully we'll have Dan and Justin back next month too. We got a lot on the agenda. So
Yes,
Good.
then we're talking about hunting anyway.
yes. Okay, if there's nothing else, we need a
Move to
motion.
adjourn.
Again,
Roll call vote. Todd Helwig,
Yes.
John Johnson,
Yes.
Kelly Marston,
yes.
Sadie Stone.
Yes.
And I vote yes too. Thank you, Vinny. Thank you, Kaylee, for your support.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome. Have a good night.
Enjoy the good weather, folks. We'll talk to you in June.
Bye, guys. Thank you.
Take care.
Good night.
Bye.
Bye.